morning of September 11th, 2001 broke blue and bright along the East Coast. Aviation workers across America came to work, expecting a normal day. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a national attack, one in which their industry was used as the means. Reclaiming the Sky tells the story of aviation workers who rose up to meet the challenges. Flight attendants and pilots went back up into the air to get America moving again. Other aviation employees created charity projects to memorialize friends and colleagues. They worked tirelessly to make their airport safe and restore confidence in travel. It worked. America and Americans showed they would not be cowed. And aviation workers played a leadership role. Events occur in our lives that test us. How will we respond? Will we rise up? Where will we find the strength? We give you a chance to explore the lessons of courage in Reclaiming the Sky. Explore how you can apply the resiliency lessons of the 9/11 heroes to meet challenges in your life. The program is conducted by the Human Resiliency Institute at Fordham University, which offers the Edge for Vets program. For more information and to register, visit reclaimingthesky.com.
Let me start by welcoming you all. My name is Tom Murphy, and I'm the author of Reclaiming the Sky, but also down below you see the Human Resiliency Institute. I direct the Human Resiliency Institute at Fordham. This is the Reclaiming the Sky Resiliency Project workshop. We do this program in collaboration with Airports Council International, and the COO, Nancy Zimini, is our point of contact at ACI. So this is a project that we do out of Fordham, but we do it in conjunction with ACI. And I thought what I would do now is just go through the agenda, and we're going to give everybody a chance to meet each other. But let me just highlight for you our purpose today. The program is, as you say, an opportunity. We're looking to give aviation's young professionals, an opportunity to learn resiliency skills from the example of the 9/11 aviation heroes profiled in Reclaiming the Sky, and then have a chance to come together and share your thoughts on what you learned. That's what the workshop is for today. And then we're going to have an essay contest where you can express those in 500 to 700 words, and entered in a contest where we'll have 3 winners that will be recognized at ACI's annual conference. All of that, the details on that, I'll go into as we progress today. But again, you see the second bullet. This is a project offered by the Human Resiliency Institute at Fordham in partnership and collaboration with Airports Council International. What we're going to be doing today is giving you a chance to, yes, meet each other, but then very importantly, have a chance to share the lessons that you got from reading these stories. And then you see the next bullet, our judges, we've got some of them who are with us today, and they're going to serve as mentors to give you feedback in that process. And then at the end of the session today, we'll talk about the essay contest and how you can compete to take what you learned, express it, and then have an opportunity to win awards and be showcased at ACI's annual conference. So saying that, let me do this by introducing you to some of the folks who are going to be the essay judges who today are going to be mentors. And as you know, the world has had a global technology glitch today. Somebody called it a glitch, which I think, as you probably agree, understates it. But in any case, some of our mentors and judges are not able to join us today, but that's one of the reasons that we're recording this, so that we can have this as something to share with everybody. But let me just go through the roster of who's helping to lead this effort. Lisa Scully-Leoponis is the head of LL Aviation Advisors. She's the formal general manager at LaGuardia Airport, going to be one of the judges. Bob Stanton is vice president with SSP America. And, you know, one of the important parts for us in this is giving you a chance to meet the leaders and build your network of contacts. You're the young professionals, that group that's under 40 years of age, that will be tomorrow's leaders. And so we thought it'd be a wonderful chance for you to meet some of the folks who are leading the industry today. And certainly Bob is one of them. And Bob, I believe Bob is on the call today. And if you could unmute yourself, I trust you're there, Bob. If you want to unmute yourself and just, you know, say hello to our young professional participants and tell us a little bit about SSP. I saw Bob was on the roster. Maybe he has popped off and we'll pop back.
I think he's muted.
Is Bob muted? Yeah, I saw Bob on the roster. Is
that
Bob
better?
there? Now we can hear you.
There
Bob,
you go.
yeah, I don't know if you heard my introduction to you, but if
I
you
did.
just want to say a quick hello and just tell folks about SSP and the support that SSP has for the next generation.
Well, thank you, and welcome everybody. As Tom said, my name is Bob Stanton, and I do the business development for SSP America. SSP America is a global service provider in multiple countries, obviously, with a significant presence in North America. We provide food and beverage services, and we're branching into the retail business as well. We've been in business for 65 years, I think it is now. And obviously, we're a organization that is made up of leaders that have been in the business their whole lives. So there's a tremendous amount of perspective and experience in the leadership team at SSP. So we've lived through a lot of the adversities that we face as an industry, not only 9/11, but COVID as of recently. You know, it's interesting. I think as you go through this and you start to gain perspective, you'll find that at the end of this whole process, a lot of this comes down to people. People are our greatest asset. They have got us through the toughest times that the industry has thrown at us. And I look forward to sharing some of those experiences with you as we progress.
Thank you, Bob. And boy, I think you put your finger on it. You know, we're all in aviation, and that involves planes, certainly, facilities, certainly, but I think you put your finger on it, that it really comes down to the people. And what we're excited about with this project is this is an attempt, again, under the banner of ACI-NA, to help develop the next generation of people who are going to be the leaders in our industry. So thank you for that. And again, this is intended, folks, as a roundtable, and you'll see we're going to get into this. So Bob, I encourage you as we go along and you get some, you know, input from our young professionals, please weigh in from your perspective. Cedric Fulton was with the Port Authority. I just got a text, the global glitch, as they call it, because of that, Cedric isn't going to be on the call, but he is a judge, as are Debbie Rowland, who is an American flight attendant that you read about in the book. She's going to be a judge. Eileen Amiano, also in the book, and a retired flight attendant supervisor at United out of Newark. We talked a little bit about her. I'm going to show you a clip with Eileen in a moment, but she's going to be a judge along with her colleague from United, Kathy Denker. So we got, and others are going to be joining as we go along to be judges, but what we're excited by is you've got the generation that's currently leading, providing support for you as the next generation of leaders. And you see the last bullet, young professional participants, which is you. So what I'd like to do now, to give everybody a chance to just say a quick hello. Let's go to the round table, and you unmute yourself, and we'll just take it in whatever order breaks out. Unmute yourself. First of all, say hello, who you are, who you represent, who you work for, and then we're going to go into a discussion where we'll have a chance to share your thoughts on the book. But I'd like to just get you a chance to say hello and get an initial chance to meet each other. So why don't you just dive in, unmute yourself, and just say a quick hello and who you work with.
I'll go first. Hi, my name's Megan, and I work for Departure Media Airport Advertising.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan.
Hello all, my name is Eric Kaplan. I am the Sustainability and Resilience Program Director for Tampa International Airport. Happy to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. And it's nice to have somebody on the resiliency side in this, Eric. So thank you for being a participant. And just keep going around the table.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caleb Claxton. I'm a civil engineer with Conoco. We do a lot of work with airports across the nation as far as construction administration, cost estimating, and scheduling. And we've got quite a bit of other Conoco employees on here, so I'll probably let one of them go next.
Great. Thank you, Caleb.
Hello, I am Bülent. I'm the founder of River Island Airport Solutions. We provide some services and solutions to airports in North America.
Wonderful. Thank you.
My name is Veronica. Oh,
No, go ahead, Veronica.
okay. My name is Veronica Dagas. As Caleb gave the introduction, I am also with Conoco. I am a civil cost estimator. And that's my role there.
Wonderful. We're getting a real sense. Go ahead, Kristen.
My name is Kristen Jewell. I'm with the Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport in marketing, public relations, and air service development. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. As we go around the table, keep going. And Kate, I know we have Kate on here, but I'm going to ask you, hold off till last, Kate, because I want to make special mention of you. But keep going around the table. The exciting thing about this is that you see we have folks not only from different companies, but who do many different things that are, form the backbone of this industry. So let me, open up the table again and keep going.
Hello, everyone. I am Kira Metcalf, the Assistant Manager in Community Relations for the Metropolitan Airports Commission at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport.
Wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. My name is Farouk. I'm with Conoco. I'm also a civil engineer at Conoco with Caleb and Veronica.
Wonderful. Anybody else?
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Cunningham. I'm Executive Business Analyst at Philadelphia International Airport within our finance unit.
Very exciting. We're getting a real representation all around the country. Anybody else before I mention Cade? I want to make a special mention of Cade.
Hey, everyone. Oh, sorry. I'll let you go.
Go ahead, Ellie. I can see you, Ellie, but I think you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, got you now.
Hello.
Yep, we got you. Go ahead.
Hey, everyone. My name is Ellie Germain. I work with Conoco. I work at Conoco as well with Veronica, Farouk, and Caleb Claxton. And I work with the field staff.
With the field staff. Perfect. Anybody else?
Hi, everyone. I work for Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority at DCA in airport operations.
Great. Who is that?
That was me, Noah Yarnell.
Hi, Noah. How are you? And I see Esther just joined us now. Esther, we're doing introductions around the table just to give a sense of who's here. Are you there, Esther? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. just say who you are and where you work.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Esther Chitsinde, I work for HDR. And Tom, thanks for the invitation. I'm kind of an alum from last year, and this is such an
Oh,
insightful
wonderful.
project.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I think we've got we put out word to the group from last year. By the way, folks, this is the second year of doing the program, and as I go through it today, I'll explain how the goal is to grow it. We started it last year as a pilot, and a leadership group got us going. Esther is one of the folks who has very kindly and generously offered to come in and be a mentor and give you perspective on how she read these stories last year, learned resiliency principles, and how she's using them this year. And we had several of our winners from last year too, who we invited. And I'm not sure if any of our winners are. We had Michael and Deborah and Sal. Michael, Deborah, and Sal there by any chance? Because I can't see everybody on the list, but I know they expressed an interest to join us. So possibly they'll join us as we go along. But Esther, I thank you for carrying the flag and representing the group from last year that is offering input. So all right, let me then move to the next part of this, which is to just summarize for you. And then, as I mentioned, this is a roundtable where we want to give all of you a chance to share the lessons that you learned. But as you know from the story, from the book, it's got three components to it. And one tells the story of the aviation professionals who were on the ground that day with the airport and the airlines in Boston. And you see John DeVal and Ed Frenny there, the Director of Operations and Deputy Director of Operations for the airport. You read about them and the challenges that they had that day, but then also in the days and weeks and months that followed to get the airport back up and running again. Ed, by the way, if you don't know, is now the head of the entire Massport. He was operations with Logan, but now he heads up the entire operation at Massport, and he's a very strong supporter of the program. I've shared with you that this program is a personal, it means a lot to me on a personal level, because my job during that period was doing training programs for airports. And one of the clients was United Airlines that I was working with that summer of 2001. And I had the job to train all of the customer service agents for United Airlines at Logan. And there were about 150 of them. And so I had Marianne and Jesus were two of those CSRs who were in the training class I did that summer. And then, of course, they were on the plane. You read about them. They were on the plane, Flight 175, that crashed into the South Tower. And you see how their colleagues came together always with us. And, we're going to open the floor to you. You read their stories, going to give you a chance to share, what you learned from their courage. So that was Boston. And then in the case of Washington, D.C., I had a lot of personal contacts with the flight attendants from American Airlines, and you see two of them there on the left. Debbie Rowland was a flight attendant and the head of the one of the security operations for the flight attendants, and her colleague on the right, Tony Nisley, was the flight attendant supervisor for Reagan and Dulles. So all the flight attendants, and you see that's what a flight attendant class looked like back then. They would be trained and then go into the ranks. DCA had a base of about 250, and Tony Nisley was the head of all of the flight attendants. And you read about her and how after they lost their colleagues, Ken and Jennifer, a married couple who were on Flight 77, and again in the stories you read how their colleagues called them Kennifer because they did everything together, Ken and Jennifer. And then on the left, you see how 300 of the flight attendants in Washington, D.C. came together and took a barren patch of ground out in Ken and Jennifer's hometown, Culpeper, and created this lavish garden. And again, you know, that's what the story chronicles, the how they did that, the why they did that, what they gained from it, and then going to give you a chance to share, you know, how their stories resonated with you and what you gained. And then you had Newark. A third of the book was about Newark and New York. And Sue Bear on the left there was the head of the general manager of Newark Airport. Now, as I mentioned, this whole story is you know, resonates with me on a very personal level. Sue is the one that back in 1990 gave me the chance to come into aviation, brought me in, and we set up the first customer service training program for airports back in 1990. It didn't exist before then. We made the very first airport customer service program. Now they're offered all across the country. But you see there on the right, Gateway was one of the contractors, and a whole lot of the frontline workers there that day came into work expecting a normal day, only to be pressed into heroic service. And again, I'm going to open up the floor in a moment and give you a chance to talk about what you learned from them, not only how they responded that day, but how they responded to build back their lives, their airport, help build back the industry. And before we go into the roundtable, what I'd like to do is play you Eileen. Eileen was not able to join us today, but as I mentioned earlier, she is a judge in this. She was a United Airlines flight attendant supervisor. In fact, was supposed to be on Flight 93 out of Newark that morning, but the person that she was going to be training that day, she came in early to have coffee with her, recognized that she didn't need Eileen's help, so she signed herself away from that flight at 8 a.m. in the morning and signed for the 1 o'clock flight to take the flight attendant that needed more help, she deemed. And again, she made her talk about, you know, commitment to service. She made her day longer by doing that, because that flight was going from Newark to San Francisco, and her job as a supervisor was to ride with the flight attendant and help that flight attendant, you know, hone their skills in order before they were formally signed on and commissioned. So that was her job, but she resigned to the 1 o'clock, and then of course the flight 93 at 8 a.m. in the morning was the one that crashed into the Shanksville. Now, what I'd like to do before we do our roundtable is just play. Eileen talked about how they responded, and that was really the key. Not only how they responded that day, but how they responded in the aftermath, how they built back their lives and how they came together as a community to do that. So I thought what I would do is just play this short video where Eileen talks about what the flight attendant group at Newark Airport did, and really, you know, what she talks about applies to all three of the locations that we read about. But let me just play Eileen, and then we'll talk about it on the other end.
I was based at Newark at United, and at the time, the base was another family. Simply put, it was another family. It wasn't as big as all the other bases, and we got to know each other and had each other's backs. We made.
By the way, let me just pause it. Let me see a thumbs up. Are you getting the sound on this? Because sometimes, okay, great. Let me continue it.
I mean, I was a flight attendant, and then I was a coordinator, which is their front line, who they first come in when they come into the office. And then I was a supervisor at the end of my career. But I never lost that connection with the friends that I had while I was on the line. We knew everybody. We knew everybody. what made it so special was how close we were. I mean, we were just family. Being so close to the towers, we knew something traumatic, tragic, awful was going on. But then when we found out that one of our flights, Flight 93, was involved, we were stunned. We tried to look in the manual, an emergency manual. We tried to look in the manual like what to do. You know, how do we handle this? My immediate reaction is, I've got to find out who was on that flight, which we were able to do very simply. And I got to get to the families, their families. Our focus was to get to the families of the flight attendants that were involved and offer them whatever they needed. We had a little room off of the check-in desk. And that tiny room started to be filled with gifts and tokens of sympathy to our domicile, to our base, from Delta, from American, from the customer service at United, from all of these different organizations. We even got a rocking chair. Somebody donated a rocking chair because that's always been like a place of comfort. You know, you sit in a rocking chair. So Judy came in one day and saw this and said, we need to do something. We need to continue to take care of the families. We started doing major, huge fundraisers that over a 5-year period raised enough money to build this granite monument off the fields of Shanksville. That's how it kind of developed. We just got together and over 5 years, we did tricky trays and silent auctions and 50-50s to build this monument. What does it mean to us? It means that there's a camaraderie, there's a connection that's never going to leave us. It's always going to be there. It's just a symbol that, a symbol of what happened that horrific day. And it's also a reminder that doing for others is the best way for us to have handled it all. You know, everybody grieves differently, and there are very many levels and stages of grief. When you focus your energy and your attentions on helping others, you kind of get out of that black abyss that is part of grief. You see that whatever efforts you make can still do good. And there's always light. Then you start seeing light versus the dark that grief brings on. So my advice would be, you know, put your kindness on. Just wear your kindness as much as you can. And what you sow, so shall you reap. Isn't that a proverb?
So there you see it. Eileen's story, the stories in Boston, Washington, D.C., and Newark, New York, are all contained in there. It was useful to give Eileen a chance to share what they did with United Airlines at Newark, because there are tremendous lessons in that. You know, think back 9/11 is going on 23 years ago, but the lessons that can be gleaned from what they did can be applied for what you folks will face in the future. And so that's the purpose here. And again, I want to open the floor and give everybody a chance. We're going to use the rest of this session to go around the room and give everybody a chance to share. You know, you heard from Eileen, but maybe there are others that you learned from and you want to share that, what you learned. You're going to have a chance, obviously, to put it into an essay and compete for awards on that. But we're going to use today for you a chance, give you a chance to just, you know, share with your colleagues what you learned. This is a program for tomorrow's leaders. You are the young professionals, the group under 40, who are now in middle management positions, but one day will be the leaders. I did mention CADE. I want to, before we go into our roundtable, I just want to point out that in addition to doing this project with the young professionals, there's interest to expand into the aviation students. And maybe people aren't aware that there are 128 schools that offer aviation programs around the country. 95,000 students are in those schools. So you folks are in the jobs that are the middle level jobs at the airports now and in the service companies that will one day be the leaders on that side. But then you've got this whole cohort of 95,000 students coming in behind you. And so this year, we did a little test of that concept to see if the students could gain. And we had University of Memphis, and I think Kimberly, the head of that program, is with us, as is Cade Plunk. Cade, a student at University of Memphis. And Cade, why don't you kick off our roundtable? You know, you're a student. We're going to give our young professionals a chance to tell what they gleaned. But as from the students' perspective, why don't you share what you were able to glean from these stories of the heroes?
Yeah, so can you hear me good, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so I'm Cade, and I'm from the University of Memphis. And I guess for a little backstory, we kind of got together after an event with the University Aviation Association and decided to do a workshop with Reclaiming the Skies with Brandon Carroll and me and other students at the university, and the staff was also involved, like Captain Coriat. And we had a round table basically kind of like this, just in person at the Memphis International Airport. Everyone got to meet, you know, the people who work day in and day out at the international airport, and really just, you know, most everyone that was there. I think only one or two that had only read partially through the book, but we got to really have a good discussion about the book and, you know, how we can apply the lessons from 9/11 and the aviation employees that worked there through that to our own lives today. And it doesn't even have to deal with, you know, you don't have to apply it to emergency situations. You can apply resiliency to anything in your life that you're going through, whether it be flight training, job transitioning, really anything, just getting through that. So yeah, Tom, anything else?
No, I'm really great. I wanted to just give you a shout out as representative of that group of students, because, you know, the objective is to start this with your group and then it can expand out, because I think you just said something very important. And then I want to open the floor to everybody else to have a chance to share. You know, you talked about the lessons and you talked about the application of them. It's one thing to extract a lesson, but then you talked about, you know, applying it not only professionally, but on a personal level, because resiliency, what you can learn, our hope is that these stories can give you lessons that you can glean and then, yes, use in your career, but then also apply personally, because as you said, Kate, resiliency is needed in everything that you do. So again, I just wanted to give you a personal shout out for your leadership with that, because I think that has great potential to expand to the students with you, Captain Coriat, and your whole team there. So thank you for kicking us off. The whole rest of this workshop, folks, is going to be a chance for you all to share your thoughts. Let's go around the room. I'm gonna, I previewed or highlighted the stories in the three. The book is divided into three parts: Boston, New York, Newark, and Washington, D.C. So you've got groups of aviation professionals in each of those three locations, and all of them had to deal with 9/11 that day. There was nothing in the manual that guided them on how to do that, so they had to figure out and respond to do that. And maybe there are judgment lessons, decision-making lessons that you can extract. And then they had to build back their lives. You heard from Eileen how she talked about how they came together as a community. Well, maybe, community at your airport or at your service company business is important. And maybe what you glean from these stories, you can apply in community building in your area. Again, professionally, but then also maybe you extracted lessons that you see value in, that you can use on a personal level, with COVID or with anything that comes up, or with today's global glitch that just threw a wrench into the whole world's operations. Resiliency, as Kate said, is needed in everything we do. So with that as just sort of a door opener, and I'm going to ask Bob Stanton, please, you've been at this, your career for many, many years with incredible experience and accomplishments. So as our young professionals offer their thoughts on what they gleaned, please reinforce or chime in and let folks know they're on the right track. So again, I'm just open up the floor, unmute yourself, and let's have at it. Go.
Hey, Tom. Hey, all. I'll start just because Kate kind of inspired something in me. Again, Eric Kaplan with Tampa Airport. First off, I guess before getting into kind of the individual stories, Tom, kudos to this book in general. I'm sure everyone feels similar. Some books for me are easy to get through and some are much more difficult. And this one captured me pretty quickly. So I thought it was really well done. And to what Kate spoke to, and Kate, nice to meet you. And certainly not to speak for you, but I think, probably a lot of people in your program may not have been born yet by 9/11. And so I think this exercise is really important to kind of introduce the gravity of that day and the lessons learned from that. And for me, it was really good as a revisit. I was young, but old enough to remember everything about that day. And days go by, years go by, and it's a really important revisit, this story and this program. So I thought it was great for that. And the couple of stories that stuck out to me were, and I kind of noted them, Sue Bear was one of them. And then the story with Marianne and Ann McFarland was the other. And Sue's story resonated with me because although I am certainly not in the position of a general manager of an airport, I have a similar work environment to what Sue described. I'm also in an office space on the airport. And so the way that she experienced that day, I could almost visualize, from my office space, getting ready to sit for a leadership meeting and then everything completely change. So she had an incredible story to the top, but her particular point of view and position really resonated with me because I could see it through the eyes of my own organization here and how we would react to the same. And some of the lessons learned from her were to, you kind of get that fight or flight response. And she, went full fight and immediately started organizing and didn't really think twice about it. At the same time, providing comfort to coworkers, colleagues, but most of their either family or close ones were in the World Trade Center, because I know most of the authority was stationed there. So that really resonated with me. And I think the Marianne and Anne story did more because that story just kind of pulled on my heartstrings a bit. A story of mother-daughter, that connection, mother driving her into work every day. And then one day, the daughter not returning. And that definitely tugged on me a bit. And then to see kind of how Anne responded to that by working at the airport, kind of being the light for others, working in that like public information, customer service space, I thought was very admirable and motivating. And so, but both of those really stuck out as stories that resonated and really good lessons learned.
Well,
Thank you.
those are excellent points, Eric. And you're so right about Anne. I mean, to lose your daughter and then that night go back to comfort other mothers who had lost children or loved ones. Incredible strength. And I guess really that's what we're doing, is just opening the floor to you. There was strength exhibited by all of people profiled in Boston, in New York, Newark, in DC. Strength profiled on many different levels, and that's what we're eager to hear your thoughts on. So Eric, thank you. Kate, thank you for kicking us off. Eric, thank you for picking up the baton. And again, like I say, the rest of this session, we're just going around the room. You had a chance to meet each other, and this is your chance. Love to hear from you. And Bob Stanton, please chip in when you think folks are on the right track. So whoever wants to offer a thought next, floor's open.
Again, I'm Bülent from River Island Airport Solutions. I've been in the sector for the last 10 years. 6 of those years were in a windowless room at an airport, technical department. So I'd like to echo what Eric said about Subar. I've seen a lot of time I saw my colleagues hiding behind the regulations, the red tape in airports. We all know that we have many bureaucratic hurdles at the airport, and you can really hide behind them when you don't want to work, when you want to run away from something. At that point, Sue took initiative to close the airport immediately. So I really respect that. So she could have waited for something she didn't want to. She could have done anything else. But instead, she took the initiative to close the airport, and I really admire that initiative.
Well, that's an excellent point. And let me just underscore, I think if I heard you correctly, what she represented and what you got out of it was the judgment that she exhibited. Because so very often, as you know, we have to make decisions when we don't have all the information. And, certainly, my God, there's no way that there was nothing in chapter 17 that described something like a 9/11. So they didn't have the information. Certainly Sue didn't have the information, but she had to make decisions based on her best judgment. And in reading about her and watching what she did, what I'm hearing from you is that it's that decision-making ability, like you say, don't hide behind the regulation, use your best judgment, and that she was an example for you on how to do that. So if I'm on the right track, I just think you're, excellent point. And this is great, folks. Just keep going and, pitch in. We'll get the rest of the workshop and love to hear your thoughts.
Tom, just to add to what Kate has said when he first started talking, and Eric and Bullitt as well. First of all, storytelling, in my mind, is the foundation of so many cultures, and that's how culture gets passed from generation to generation. It's so important that we listen to stories and that we share them with other people, especially since a lot of the people are on this call and the people that will be leading in the future weren't alive during 9/11.
Right.
Don't understand the gravity of it. But I think back to the we were just talking about Sue and the actions that she took. We're in this industry of service. We serve other people in everything that we do, whether it's greeting people on planes, serving people food, getting people scheduled to take their flights. We do this to make that traveler's day a little bit easier and a little bit better. but it starts with service from the heart. And this is what we do for a living. So when Sue's out shopping for school supplies for her kids, she rushes back to the airport. The decision to close the airport, I think, was more around the safety of the people who are on planes in the air and the people who are on the ground getting ready to take off. She made that decision. Not well, I'm sure she was going through her mind what the red tape and regulations were going to be, but her first and foremost thought, at least from what I could glean from the story, was about the safety and the caring of the other people that she's responsible for in the airport. And that is such it's a fundamental value in people that lead our industry. And I watch as I watched, and at the time I was working for Marriott, who eventually became HMS Host. And I was sitting in Washington, D.C. in Bethesda, Maryland, in my office when that first plane hit. And we obviously have businesses that I work in Boston and Washington, D.C. and New York as well. And I just remember the emotional roller coaster that I was going through watching the first plane hit the tower. 15 minutes later, at first you think, well, that was a terrible accident. How did that happen? Then all of a sudden, second one hits, and what's going through my mind is this is intentional. And then the Pentagon gets hit. Now my immediate response turned back toward my family. I live 25 minutes from the Pentagon. What is really going on here? So after you get through that flight or fear thing you were talking about, you immediately turn to, who do we have in the air? Who's on the planes? Our entire executive staff was in Montreal at an ACI conference when this happened. They had to drive back to DC because they couldn't get a plane back. And of course, the phone calls that were going on at that time were, who do we have in the air? Where are our employees right now? And what's going to come next? So uncertainty obviously was something that was reigning through the organization at the time. And I'm so proud of the decisions that we made as a company, that we reverted back to our people first and the safety of our people and our customers. And I think those are, we're starting to have conversations about the values that the people that work in our industry have as they make decisions, as we watch the industry evolve. So those are the things that are going through my mind listening to you guys talk so far.
Wow, excellent. Let me just highlight a couple of points, make sure that I'm on the right track, and we can get others to chip in as well on that. You're talking about service, really service, and it comes down to meeting needs, and you can either do that, by rote mechanically, or you can do it from the heart, and that was your term, from the heart, and from the heart is better. And I think that again, what I'm hearing from you is when you're saying tragedy like this struck your company and your people, your first instinct at your level was to think of your people from the heart. And again, I'd love to hear some of our young professionals talk about that theme, because there's one level to this story, and that's like, the attack itself and that day. But then there's the other part of the story, and this is what I learned in talking to the people as I profiled them, is that, and it was the major part of the story really, it was recovering, coming back from, which is why we gave the title Reclaiming the Sky, taking back hope, taking back the sky. That's recovery. And when recovery, if I'm hearing you, Bob, correctly, when recovery is done from the heart, and I think you heard it in Eileen with the United flight attendants, you definitely saw it with the flight attendants in DC building that garden. As Eric said with Ann McFarland, you saw it with her in response to the pain that she had losing her daughter. She responded to others. Again, I'm on your term, Bob, from the heart. So, I'd love to hear some folks, talk about that, because this is a story intended to be not just how to recover from like the tragedy of 9/11, but use that as a way to recover from any loss in life. Certainly we have other challenges, COVID hits, things hit, we lose. How do we recover when we lose? And I think I guess I'd love to just tee it up and get folks talking about what you gleaned from these people profiles in terms of what they did to recover and how you can apply that to yourself. And as Kate said, not only professionally, but personally. I'd love to hear if anybody has some thoughts on you know, that response to loss and what these people showed that can offer a roadmap to a way to do that. Anybody want to offer thoughts?
I have a couple
can.
points.
Go ahead. We got plenty
Not
of
all at
time. We'll go
once.
around. Yeah, go around the room.
I have a couple points that I'd like to bring up. So when I was reading the book, I found myself drawn a lot more to the conclusions that each of the people had come to later on, years later, on how they moved forward. I was not as focused on, you know, the actions they did that day during like a fight or flight type of moment. One thing that really struck me was Catherine, one of the flight attendants. She had said something along the lines of, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's not about whether or not someone else deserves forgiveness. It's a choice that you make for yourself and for in order to move forward with your life. And I just thought that was really powerful, you know, like the decisions that you make in the face of adversity, to be resilient, like those decisions you're making, those are for you. Those aren't for anyone else. You know, you can't control what other people do. You can't control what life throws at you. You can only control how you react to it. And I just thought that was really powerful.
You know, let me see if I heard you correctly on Catherine. And if I heard you correctly, what you gleaned from her is that, you know, obviously from when you lose, initial response can be that pain, that hurt, that anger, even anger. But if we hold on to the anger, and again, I'm just trying to see if I understood you correctly. What Catherine is saying is that if we hold on to the anger, then it doesn't hurt the other person. That anger holding on is gonna hurt us. And so I think, you know, in my talking to Catherine, I think you're spot on in terms of what she was trying to communicate. And I think that's a powerful lesson that you got, because you know, either energy can go in as anger and stay there, or we can put our energy out to others and move forward. So it becomes trying to move forward by doing for others rather than simply burying it and moving on. And if we hold on to that anger, as you say, Veronica, that's hurting us, not the other person. Again, I'm trying to make sure that I got you correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a one. Anybody else want to chip in either on Veronica's point or a point from
I would like to actually build on Veronica's point, because as I was reading the book, there's a sentence that kind of stuck with me. You said anger left unchecked can corrode the soul.
Yes.
And once I read it and then kept reading the book, it was more about you finding your way of forgiveness and moving on from what just you witnessed happening to your colleagues in the industry and people that you knew, especially the fact that you were supposed to be in the building on that day, and kind of just your journey of recovering from that, and which is really kind of like, as I'm reading the book, I'm reading it as a Tom, not as someone who's reading it from the outside. So
yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I'd love to hear other thoughts on that. Let me just pose for everybody to, you know, to consider this, to both of your points, that there's a difference between, and I think Mark Hussey says it. Mark was the station manager for United at Logan, and he's the one that told me, and it's in the book, he said, you know, there's a difference between moving on and moving forward. And the difference with moving on is that when we have loss, we don't want to have that feeling of hurt, anger, so we just push it down. We press it down, and we move on, and people are saying, oh, get over it, move on. So the instinct then becomes just to press it down. But ultimately, that's going to come back, and this was Mark's point, and again, I'd love your thoughts on it if you got this as well from him. It's going to come back and get you. So the difference between moving on and moving forward involves doing what you both are talking about, and what you got from Catherine and others, is that if we hold on to the anger, it's corroding our soul. It's not hurting the other person that we're angry at. It's corroding us. And boy, I'm just so impressed with, how you guys as a group really got the gist of what, these folks are talking about. And, the thing is, they didn't know each other. I knew them from working with them in DC, working with them in Newark, working them in Boston. They didn't know each other. But as I went back and talked to them, you can see that the theme is the same, that anybody getting better, and again, I'd love your thoughts on this, is somebody who chose to move forward rather than just pressing it down. And then I would love to hear your thoughts on how you think they moved forward. So if the objective becomes to not press it down and move forward by putting our energy out to others, I'd love to hear your thoughts on first of all, if you agree with that, and then maybe who in these stories you got that from as a lesson.
I feel like the overall, hello everybody. I feel like the overall message pretty much is like kind of showing you that like in difficult times, it's like a catalyst for growth. So whether that is kind of showing your inner like truism, so making sure that you kind of really show how we can be human, how we can really connect in a difficult time, I think really merges and brings us together. It's like kind of the one that the main points I think brought up from Sue is soldier on, slow down, take that time to kind of self-reflect, make those connections, because everyone's seeking them, everyone's kind of going through difficult like places, so seeking that support, and then kind of to be fully engaged and fully immersed, because like I think, and again, like one of the quotes is like from Gandhi is like the best way to find yourself is to lose self in the service to others. So really having and finding that appreciation for life, kind of having that fragility of existence and importance to really cherish each moment, kind of like Tom, like you have all these grand memories with these people and your colleagues, which emphasizes the relationships you have with your family and everybody has with their family and like members around them. So having that emphasis and really engaging that kindness and generosity kind of really helps us reevaluate our capacity for goodness. We get so big into the mundane of the day-to-day life, that hectic excitement of us producing that spectacle that we have in the aviation industry. So kind of not having yourself to feel stuck or that tightness, but how can we really grow from this tragedy and kind of how you can overcome that together, not only as an individual, but that humans crave community. So how we can really be part of that community and use that difficult time for that catalyst as our growth.
Wow, Elizabeth, that's an excellent point. I would love to open the floor on that point about community, because I think so many of the stories reflect that people did reclaim the sky, did move forward instead of simply moving on. They moved forward through community, and it was through their embrace of others that they were able to find a pathway for themselves through working with others to do that. And I'm just sort of teeing it up in terms of the American flight attendants, what they did with their garden, or we just played the video with Eileen and what they did with their what do they call those little tricky trays or little those raffles that they did. They raised 60 grand in order to make a monument for their colleagues out of Shanksville. The government had this whole project out of Shanksville, but they went in and said, we got 60 grand, we're building something. And they went on the government land and they made it happen, but they did it as a group. So I'm just sort of picking up on your point, because you're the one that mentioned community, Elizabeth, and I think you're spot on with that. But, I'd just like to open the floor to, to others who find that point about community being something that's germane and useful to you, in your business or at your airport or wherever you are. The beauty of this project is that we're seeking to bring together people from all across the country around these themes. And so, I'd love that idea of community, to get input from folks around the country as to how they see community being a living theme where you are. Anybody want to offer thoughts on that?
I think I got to have kind of that fun experience this morning for community, especially being in the airport environment. I was on shift this morning for the whole Microsoft outage that came in, and having to answer those first few calls that were rolling in, and then reaching out to my partners with the airlines, to reach out with my partners in concessions, and reach out with everyone that's here and in person in the airports, to talk with them and see what they needed and how we could help support them, whether it was providing that presence, whether it was helping putting out messaging to them. And it was nice because all the people that I called this morning on the phone are all people I've met with, have sat with, had lunch with, and been able to really work with them and see them personally. And that's how I took a lot of the book, was having that community and having that whole kind of network that you can rely upon.
Wow. And who was just speaking there? Because it didn't show up on the screen. Whose thought that was a wonderful thought. Who offered that? Who was that talking?
That was Noah Yarnell.
Who?
Noah.
No, that was okay, wonderful. I mean, boy, talk about something. These stories 23 years ago being alive still. And by the way, we're grateful to all of you for participating in this project, because what you're doing is, yes, you're extracting lessons that maybe can be useful for you, but what you're doing is you're helping to keep these stories of our industry's heroes alive. Because you know how it works. If you don't tell these stories, you don't keep these stories in front of people, time goes in and they go away and they're lost. So you're helping to keep the stories alive. But somebody would say, well, for what purpose? And I would say, wow, you just nailed what the purpose is, because there you have, community maybe exhibited by Eileen and the United Flight Attendants, Sue, what she did pulling her airport together, the American flight attendants down in Culpeper, Virginia. But there you have it alive today with this global glitch that they're calling it. And you guys and your team came together as a community to solve that. And you did it as a community. So right away you have a direct line from these stories to an application today. I'd love to hear, more thoughts on that. You guys are going to be tomorrow's leaders. You all came through COVID. Hopefully, COVID's receding, at least from what it was a couple of years ago. But you had to come through that. I'd love to hear some thoughts in terms of how, the lesson from this book, which is that, community is the way to function, move forward instead of on through community, was something that you saw work in your lives at your airport or your service company. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I got a thought for you, Tom.
Okay. Who's talking?
This is Bob.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I was just sitting here listening to the really deep conversation, by the way. I'm enjoying listening to this. And I was thinking about how the industry has adapted, and specifically how we adapted right after 9/11. When you look at the airport as a whole and all the different companies it takes to make an airport function, it is a community. It's a community made up of some really special people too. And I go back to the service from the heart component. As soon as we started flying again, that passenger experience changed dramatically. People were getting to the airport 4 and 5 hours ahead of time because they thought it was going to take forever to get through security with the heightened security measures that were put in place. And to the airport's credit, they processed people through real fast. But what you ended up with was thousands of people walking around post security and the wrong type of facilities to service them while they had to wait 4 hours for the flight to take off. If you watch the food, beverage, and retail offerings at airports evolve after 9/11, we used to have probably a 10-to-1 ratio of quick service restaurants compared to full service restaurants. But when you have 4 or 5 hours to kill, nobody wants to. You can get online to get a quick hamburger, then there's nowhere to sit down because the whole rooms are full. We ended up reorganizing and redeveloping all of our food and beverage facilities in concert with the airport to provide a different style of service. So people had a place to sit down and have a 45-minute meal as opposed to a 2-minute meal and wandering. So it's an example of how the concessionaires and the airport authorities work together to reconfigure the services that were offered in the airport to accommodate the changing environment. And I think that is an excellent demonstration of leadership in the industry, because it took a long time it did take a long time to do it, but it took a long time to get everyone's head around how we would do it, right? And I think leadership is defined by how we behave in the face of adversity, and never did we'll find another chance like this to demonstrate that. So
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm hearing the word team.
Big
You're saying leadership. What, and all of you are going to be leaders, and then, so the question is, well, what is leadership? It can be a slogan, it can be a word, it could be, something somebody puts on a banner and hangs on a wall, or it can be real. And what is real? And I guess what I'm trying to pose for you all to respond to is that these stories, you saw Eileen talk about what the United Flight Attendants did. That's a community, which is team. And so what's leadership? Leadership is pulling people together to function that way. I'm going to go here and just offer my thought on Sue. Sue and I were just enormously close, and as I said, she's the one that brought me into aviation a long time ago. So we're just so close. But that she was a team builder. She was all about, and you said it, Bob, people. It's all about the people, and it's all about leadership, is getting the people to work together. And how do you do that? And I guess the way is, well, these stories exhibit the how. How? Well, you all work toward a purpose. In this case, when you have loss, as these people did, they worked together as a group, as a community, came together as a team to do a response to that loss, and they did it as a group. I mean, I don't want to talk it. I would love to hear you folks. You see it in your lives. Do you see evidence of that, like working, that you've seen, whether it was during COVID or a day-to-day or whatever, where your people come together? Nobody's, requiring them to. They just see it as like the way to make progress. Let's all like put our own egos aside, and let's all like work for a common purpose. And then the result, I'd love to hear if that's true and what you're seeing at your airport. And then, as Bob says, leadership, if you can, glean how to do that, then you become a leader, and will certainly rise up in the industry. But I'd love to hear if there's anybody can offer thought on how, you just heard Bob talk about how it worked for his company, where they got together and adapted to a situation and made something new happen as a team. Anybody have an example of that from your walk of life? We got folks from all across the country. Love to hear from you.
I would love to chime in. So this is something for my team. It's actually like a positive note, but we're a company of all women, and one of my coworkers is on maternity leave. So super exciting. But we have just all stepped in to take over everything so she can come back in a couple months and be not totally lost. So I would say that's definitely brought the team together, working towards a common goal, and just making sure the girl who's out is all taken care of and everything's running smoothly. So we've all kind of had to step up for it to work out. And I wanted to kind of piggyback on Bob's point. I think it's really interesting. I know we have a little bit of an age range, but I think it's so important for our generation to read this book because I'm a 2000s baby. So, I mean, I was only one when 9/11 happened. And when I'm flying through any airport and we have all the increased security, it's like, I don't know any other way. So I think it's so important for our generation to read it, just I guess to fully understand like the grasp and the effect it's had on the nation. So yeah, I'm really just grateful that I got to read this book, and I feel like it was very eye-opening. And yeah.
Well, Megan, thank you for that. And to that point, I'm grateful to Bob. I mean, he's, he runs half the country for SSP, and he's here, volunteering generously time to this. He and I are working and trying to pull together others. You've got ACI and Nancy Zimini, the COO and the president of ACI, who are behind this to do exactly as you suggest, Megan. We're starting something. I'm grateful to you folks for being part of the leadership group with the group last year to get movement and move this thing so it can become something that can grow and give others the ability to learn from the example of these heroes. And I think somebody said, I don't know whether it was Veronica or somebody said it earlier, it's not just, the story of that day. It is the story of that day, but you could get a lot of that from the headlines of and it's like beneath the story, what motivated people rather than to collapse to like recover. Because you have an option when you get hit with loss like that. You could collapse or you can figure out a way to reclaim the sky, to take back hope, take back your life. And part of why I wrote the book is because I could see these people who were my colleagues doing exactly that. They had found out a pathway to do it. So what I'm hearing you say, Megan, and we would love to do it, we've got a group of us working together to do it, is to make this available to people who, like you say, were either babies then or maybe not even born then. And certainly as time goes on, they will not have been born then. But we're making the point, and again, I just keep opening the floor to this, that there's value in these stories for the lessons, not just in of themselves, and oh, they're interesting, wasn't that, historical or whatever, but valuable for how they can be used and applied. And Cade said it earlier, resiliency is something that you need. What is resiliency? It's bounce back, the ability to bounce back. And so how can these stories be useful to you in terms of when you get slapped down, knocked around, that you can bounce back? How can you learn from the Sue or the Ann or the Catherine or Debbie, any of them? How can you learn something from them that you can use? Again, let me just open the floor to that. Is there something that love to hear you talk about how possibly there's something that you learned that you can use for you?
I'd like to add, just because Megan brought a really great perspective, both in the maternity leave perspective. I thought that was a great example of how, coming together, but also being a 2000s baby and reading this, because I do think it's very important for that, because you don't necessarily always know what the industry was like prior, or what that day felt like, or what that kind of feeling of camaraderie felt like after, and even beyond, just these stories, throughout the country. There was a deep feeling of that for a little while. And you see it in different examples that Tom, you mentioned COVID, sometimes I think we need an event sometimes to bring that back out. But I think that this book and revisiting 9/11, both for those who may not have been around, but even for those who were and may have forgotten this perspective, it reminds us of that. I mean, I still think it's really important to see how Sue handled things, and you know, how she was able to both lead and be that kind of feeling of warmth for the people around her. But also, yeah, Veronica brought up that after feeling, and how we personalize it, and how we choose to treat each other and support each other, and essentially be the light in a lot of ways. That perspective fades sometimes. Sometimes we forget why we were doing that, what the important reason for being that way is, unless you have an event. But it shouldn't be that way. And this book kind of reinvigorates that perspective, I think.
Well, let me pick up on that point, Eric, and again, to continue the conversation, and I think Bob is right. Hey, you know, this is going into you know, a deep a deep realm, but hey, that's the whole purpose with it. You know, you mentioned Sue, and it took me about 8 or 9 months to write the book, but it was a year and a half of research, of going back and talking to my colleagues at each of these 3 locations. And when I started it, I did start with Sue. As I mentioned, she's the one that gave me my start in aviation, so I wanted to start with her. And she was general manager of Newark at that point. And what she would do is like block out a half an hour of time. We'd go, and she didn't have a square table. It was very important to Sue to have a round table. And I think you got the sense from her in the book that she was a people person. So she always wanted to have a round table, that when people came in and she talked, it wasn't a square, it was a round, where the people could feel comfortable talking. So we would sit around her round table and talk on many visits. And I would one time asked her, and I love all your thoughts on this. One time I asked her, I said, Sue, what if you had to sum up like the secret to reclaiming the sky, or you know, it wasn't just that day, but you had to build back your airport. You had to, you know, Bob talked about team. You had to convene this whole Port Authority team and all the service companies at the airport, and get everybody, you know, flat out. They've been knocked flat on the ground. You had to get them back up again and get this whole airport working again, getting, you know, your airport moving again. If you had to sum up how you do that, it's not just like the what you have to do. The what is get your airport moving again after loss. But how do you do that? She said, and I love your guys' response to this. She said, when hurting, look for something you can do for somebody else and do it. Boom. She summed up the entire recovery from 9/11 into that. And she said that she used that as her guide every single day. When you're hurting and you've had loss, and I think somebody said it before. Again, I don't know, Veronica, if it was you, but somebody said how, you know, energy can either go in and you can like hold on to that anger, or energy can go out. And that's what Sue was about. Energy out, in her case, for others. And if you do that, she said, then that moves you forward. And now you're moving. So if you're stuck, the way to get unstuck is look for what you can do for somebody else and do it. And I thought the important point, I'd love to, I'm just going to open it to the floor for your thoughts. The important point was the action part, and do it. Not just enough to think it, you have to like, you know, look for something you can do for somebody else and then actually do it. And you guys read in the book how she would like give her credit card to people if they came up with an idea. Yeah, here, you know, I got an idea, Sue, how we can like, you know, make things better. Here's my credit card. Go do it. She would always be do it. Go do it. Go do it. Again, I would love your thoughts from your perspective. You're all, you know, mid-level managers on your way to top managers. And I'd love, you know, you've had experience already. We've got Cade with the students coming in behind you, but you know, young professionals, you've got experience already. Anybody see that philosophy as something that makes sense and then possibly has worked, where you've seen it work, where Sue's philosophy has worked?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know. My camera's off, but it's Kristen from Baton Rouge. I am very purposefully mindful, and I'm very much a believer in either purposely overcoming or get overrun by a situation. It's not so much what happens to you, but it's how you respond. And from there, you learn, you grow, you apply to someone else, kind of like the whole show up for people and they'll show up for you. And I'm at a point in my personal life that's kind of rolled over to my professional life where I have a critically special needs child. And I'm very independent, fiercely so. And out of nowhere, all these people started just returning favors that I didn't even realize I had done just because I live on purpose. And it's kind of come full circle where I'm at need now and people are showing up and just feeling, no, let me help you. You helped me in this way. I want to be here for you without even realizing.
Wow, Kristen, that's a wonderful story. I'm thinking back to Bob's story about, team, and then, what's leadership? Leadership is getting everybody to buy into that concept, that as you said, Kristen, you did for them. Now look at how that is coming back at you. Again, we move forward by doing for others. So you're moving forward, and then when you get stuck, they're coming back to support you. Again, let me just leave the floor open. I'd love to, we're on to such you guys are just so impressing me enormously, because you're right at the core of what, the intention with this whole book was about. And it was to get at that, not just a recollection of the day that was part of it, but really get in underneath what motivated people in order to move forward. It became the how do you do it? And you guys are right at the core of that. Anybody else want to, chip in on how, you think that is something that you see value in, that idea of moving forward by doing for others, and how you've seen evidence of it working?
Tom, this is Michael. I would like to chip in.
Michael, listen, before you chip in, let me give a shout out to you, folks. Michael participated last year. He's Hamilton Airport in Canada. He participated and he won the essay contest last year. So we have the actual winner of last year, and he generously has offered to come in and offer his support to you, passing the baton to you this year to keep the thing moving forward. So Michael, sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead, love your thoughts.
No problem. Thank you, Tom. So in my office, we had a leadership conference about a couple years ago, and the idea of healing, I think we came up with a solution to be able to even look out for fellow colleagues in the office. And sometimes, in a very busy airport environment, it's difficult for you to be able to notice people when they're going through things, right? Or if there's something that is really this a stress of life that is really pulling them down, it's difficult to be able to notice it. So our idea of we came up with an idea to be able to help people, and that was something very simple, but yet we found lots of value in it. And it was just leave a note. If you really notice somebody down a little bit, or because we're in the office most of the time with these people, right? So if you notice somebody not being themselves or going through a little bit of a tough time, just leave a note, just a simple note saying you're awesome, I see you, you bounce back. Just something as small or as little as a note, but it carries a lot of value. So that's one of the things that I think could help build our community. It could be practiced elsewhere, right? Where you're just intentionally looking out for your colleague. And by helping people go through things, I believe it also draws them closer to us, because they now get to know that people see and know what they're going through in the office. And so in times of any disaster, I think they would be willing to go above and beyond to help each other.
Wow, Michael, that's such an excellent point. And I love the action that you folks take there, because as we've been saying, it's one thing to think it, like you can see somebody hurting, or maybe, as you said, being a little bit down or struggling on some level. You notice it when it's one thing, you can think it, you can say, oh, look at that guy over there, gee, I feel bad. But what you've done is you wrote a note, like, so you actually take an action step. And it's that action step. I go back to Sue's point, when the way to move forward, especially after loss, is, and again, this is not me, this is Sue, look for something you can do for somebody. And then Michael, you demonstrated that you guys have an actual action step. They write, you write a note, as Sue said, look for what you can do and then do it. And again, you guys, we're getting ready to wrap up here, but if we've come to that point in the conversation, then I'm satisfied on my level, setting this up, that we've come to what this whole workshop was intended to do, which was to come to the core theme of what Reclaiming the Sky. The core theme is moving forward by doing for others, and it's reflected in Sue's comment. Anybody else have any, as we get ready to wrap up, anybody else want to offer any final thoughts on value that you got from all this?
I just look at this, like Tom, it kind of like reminds me of the proverb that like iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So it's kind of having, I feel like you exemplified within your team that you had, whether it's like Sue, Tony, and all the others, and like Tom and like all the others who are kind of part of this overall goal and overall piece. It's like kind of, again, like emphasizing that community, really looking and seeking that feedback, having that challenge, and then that mentorship, peer support, and then that continuous learning. How can we continuously show and like teach each other, and holding on to that? And like another proverb that really comes to my mind is, a friend loves at all times and a brother is born from adversity. So really kind of loving at all times, but then also remembering and having that brotherhood, like kind of going through that key component of something that really keeps it alive, and something we can all difficultly learn, but it's something that brought us much deeper together.
Wow, excellent point. Thank you, Elizabeth. And Megan was saying that, and again, if I heard you correctly, Megan, that yes, you saw value in this project, and you're thinking that it would be great to if we could get others to know about it so they could participate in it. And we're at that stage where getting others to know about it really is the key. I want to thank Michael, because not only did he join us today, but Michael made a little like 60-second clip, like everything is TikTok now. You make those like little boom clips. And I'll send you out an email and invite you. If anybody would like, who's part of our participating, and you feel you got value out of this and you want to share, in 60 seconds what you got from it, give it to us, and we'll put it together as a collage. As I mentioned, Bob and I are trying to create awareness in the industry. We'll take your comment and put it out as a collage to others, and see if we could get more people engaged in this thing to help us grow it. So just a thought occurring to me now. But and by the way, I'll send you a sample, Michael, if it's okay. I'll send everybody a sample of the little clip you made, and then others can weigh in, make a little clip, and then email it to me, and we'll put them all together.
That's okay with me, Tom.
Okay, wonderful. So that's the thought. Anybody else? Let me see. We're getting, again, as we're getting ready to wrap up, I'm respecting everybody's time. Here, let me, again, there it is, folks. You guys came to it. I'm just like really impressed. You got there. You found the theme of the book, Move Forward by Doing for Others. Sue said it, it starts with a first step. And, how do you take that first step? It becomes a how question. Everybody can say, well, what is I want to move forward. But then the critical piece is, how do you do it? And Sue said, look for something you can do for somebody else and do it. And that'll build the momentum that will like start to give you that forward progress. And that there is a difference between moving forward and simply moving on. That's the other point that I wanted to make, for you to accept, reject, or whatever. But that's what we came to in putting all this together, that moving forward is higher than simply moving on. All right, so as I mentioned, there's an essay competition. I'm grateful to SSP, Bob, and others who are joining in to make it possible. There's and I'll email this to you again. You've got the essay question on the flyer we sent, but I'll mail it to you again because you got some time now to write 500 to 700 words. Basically, tell what you learned, everything we talked about today. What did you get from this that helped you enhance your resiliency strengths, perform at your peak, and meet challenges? What can you extract from these stories? And, who did you learn it from? What did you learn? And how can you use it? That's the key piece. How can you use it to enhance your resiliency, perform at your peak, and meet challenges personally and professionally in the future? Because nobody knows what challenges lie ahead. All we know is that they probably will be there. So the whole purpose of this program is to give our young people tools in advance that you can sharpen your resiliency. You already have it, but the whole purpose with this is to give you a chance to sharpen that. So there will be, I think, again, I got to go back and look at the list. I think it's August 7th. You have to submit the essay on the reclaimingthesky.com website. There's a place to upload your essay right there on the website. And then we have our judges who will review them, Bob and others. And then they will, by the 19th of August, will let you know first, second, and third. And again, as I said to the group last year, everybody is contributing something. It's a shame we have to have only 3 winners, but that's how it works. So it's totally left to the judges. They score it. There's no it's all done anonymously. They're just scoring it, and they're not even talking to each other and doing that. All the scores come in, and then we tabulate, and whoever has the highest numbers first, whoever has the second number second, third, that kind of thing. So it's totally fair that way. There's an award of $1,500 and $250, and then ACI is going to give a free registration to anybody who's able to come. So if your airport or your company, if you win, can have you come, you get a free registration. They would give you the ability to come to Grand Rapids, where the annual conference is September 8 to 10. And Michael's airport at Hamilton did that last year, and Michael was able to get his award on stage. So that's how it's going to work again. Well, there it is, August 7th at the bottom. You submit the essay, and the winners will be announced by August 19th, which, if you are a winner, would give you enough time, 3 weeks, to make arrangements if you can come and be there in person. So Bob, on behalf of one of SSP, is one of our people that makes this possible. Would you like to just offer any closing statement? I've weighed in to say, folks, how impressed I am with you. Our industry is in good hands for the next generation with you folks. And Bob is a leader on his side. I'd love to hear Bob's thoughts on what you've gained from listening to the young people today.
Well, a couple of lingering thoughts. One I can't help get out of my mind listening to Eric talk. Why does it take a major event like this to bring out the best in people? I remember driving home from Bethesda after 9/11 that evening, and I drive the Beltway, and people were slowing down. They were letting people get in traffic. They were waving instead of flipping them the bird. It was just such an amazing change in attitude on how we treat each other and how we treat people we don't even know. Thinking to myself, why can't it be like this all the time, right? And it can. It really can. For those of you who are building a career, I look back over my career over the last 40 plus years, and if I could do 2 things differently, one is I would gain as much perspective on the world and on the industry as I could at an earlier age. Meetings like this, roundtables, reading, interacting with people, using a round table instead of a square table to get, other opinions helps build and shape your perspective, which I think leads to better decisions. And the second thing was I would work really hard on myself and not being as self-centered as I was in my earlier days. It's funny. Somebody once explained to me that if you ever get to a conference or a meeting and you're introduced for 4 or 5 people at a time, by the time you get to the fourth person, you don't even remember the first person's name. There's a reason for that. It's because you're worried about how you are coming across to them as opposed to who they are and what they bring to the conversation you're about to have. And that is just a level of self-centeredness that I think all of us have. And it's something I've been working on for the last 20 years, trying to get better at it. But when you do that, I believe that you build deeper, meaningful relationships that last a lot longer. So, and it's a good trait for a leader. Those are my closing thoughts there, Tom.
No, that's wonderful, Bob. And I'm just grateful. I'm sure everybody else. I'll just close by letting anybody on our young professional or Kate on the student side, offer a closing thought to round out Bob's thought. But Bob, I'm just grateful to you for taking the time to and the interest to come in and be supportive of this project. So and again, I look forward to, as we've talked, working to get others involved on the aviation side so that we can build this into something and as Megan said, help it grow. But thank you, Bob, for that. You've got some wonderful judges, folks that are participating. Again, with the glitch, we weren't able to get them all on the call today, but I am taping this and we're going to share this around with everybody. You'll all get a copy. It take a couple days to make it into a YouTube video, but we'll share this back out with all of you, and then you can share it with your colleagues as well. And I encourage you, share it with your senior managers. Let them see what, as Bob said, you were really rolling up the sleeves and getting into some heady conversation here, which we think is good. So final thought before we wrap today. We are in the aviation business, so on-time departure and arrivals are important. So want to make sure that we close this on time. Anybody want to offer a final thought before we do?
Something that I was thinking about on that I was gonna add, it's Cade real quick. It's just that the on that last slide you had went over, it was about different steps to take through a hard situation. And a thing I like to that I kind of learned through this reading, and just meeting everyone is just a 3-step process. Is kind of just absorb the problem first, try to survive through it, try to get through it, and then figure out how to thrive through it. Ultimately, the country's gotten through 9/11. We've fixed it, and it wasn't through easy things, and like I said, I was born the year of 9/11, so I've never known the world pre 9/11. So, but I can say that, we've gotten through it. Aviation didn't stop there. So, I guess that's my last closing thoughts on it. So.
Well, Kate, you and everybody else, you're all contributing to, as they say, and it's just a slogan, never forget. But then, when we do things like this, it puts that into action. And I'm wrapping up with a slide there. That's gate 19. That's at Logan, where Flight 175 left from. It was a United gate then. It's JetBlue now. But as you see, Logan Airport, never forget, they got a flag there. This is a fairly recent photo. They've not forgotten. And so never forget can become a slogan unless you make it an action statement. And I'm grateful to all of you folks for taking a leadership role to do that. That's me. You've got my email, tom@edchevets.org or tom@tommurphy.org, whatever. But, I'm at Fordham University. Grateful to all of you for participating, and look forward to receiving your essays by August 7th. Submit it online. We'll send you a confirmation when we get your essay. Good luck to you. And again, you know, whoever wins, everybody is doing a great job for the project by contributing. So whoever wins, wins. But I'm grateful to all of you, and I thank you. So thank you for being part of this session with us today.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.